Fresh off a thrilling U.S. Open, we have got the final signature event of 2025 for the PGA Tour. It is a Travelers Championship at TPC River Highlands. Scotty Scheffler, the heavy favorite, but also Rory McIlroy in the field, Xander Schauffele, and so many others competing for a big check at the end. We're going to break down things from a betting and DFS perspective to get you ready for TPC River Highlands. Welcome on into the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research Podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Tuesday by Brandon Gdula. You can check him out on X at Gdula13. He is on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check out his work at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon, JJ Spawn, dunks one, the winner at the U.S. Open. Fun tournament. How you doing today?
I'm good. I was wrong that I thought one of the big guns was going to win the U.S. Open. We kind of got to a point where it was like Spawn, Sam Burns, Adam Scott, Victor Hovland, who were like kind of in very different ways like that. If you really extend that first tier, it's like those are like the next names. Sure. So it wasn't that far off. It wasn't like an off-the-wall winner. I mean, JJ Spawn nearly won the Players. Of course, he's a very good golfer. Found out recently he's a skateboarder, which is sick.
Okay.
Massive respect to all the skateboarders is the one thing I wish I could do, but I'm way too afraid to do it. I got my old skateboard here in the office that I like to look at, but I won't stand on because I don't want to get hurt, and then I can't do other things that I like to do. But big ups to JJ Spawn, and also big ups to you as well.
Yeah. I bet JJ Spawn to win. And honestly, great timing, because I've always had an affinity for Wyndham Clark, because I bet him to win the U.S. Open in 2023 and then also at Pebble Beach the year after that. And it's like, hey, a couple 80-1 wins. Got to feel good about this guy. Hitting JJ Spawn 150-1 means that I can now feel better about him. And Wyndham had a tough week. So it's like, okay, I'm sure he's going through some stuff, and hopefully he can figure that out and stop beating up other people's lockers and destroying property of people he does not know, people who are hosting him at a tournament. Hopefully he figures it out, because I'm sure that sounds like a not fun time to go through for him. But I'll take a pause on the Wyndham Clark train and instead hop over to JJ Spawn. So shout out JJ Spawn, both for the money, but also for allowing me to slowly navigate my affinity / attention a different direction for a bit until Wyndham gets things back on track.
Yeah. Also, like, you're kind of getting some good color on JJ Spawn. I couldn't find this. I've been searching for it, but I think basically there's a story of like JJ Spawn just kind of playing munis and like going to like normal driving ranges.
Yeah.
And I think he said it like keeps him grounded to play with like regular golfers. And
yeah,
I know I'm not like hung up on the skateboarding thing, but it's just kind of cool whenever a golfer is just not golf robot.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine if you are, but
yeah,
we don't get a lot of that. And I also think like Spawn's probably going to fall like long-term potentially into like the Xander Schauffele bucket, where he doesn't have a lot of outward expression. He feels kind of like, oh, this guy's boring, but just, I'm going to stick up for all my people who don't have a lot of outward expression, but, have a lot of thoughts, have some interests, but maybe just don't express their feelings in certain ways, such as smashing tee boxes up or locker rooms or whatever. So, maybe I'll just kind of come up with the whole list of like guys who might seem boring but aren't, at least in my case, or from my perspective. But yeah, big ups to JJ Spawn. It was a incredible story. He's been so close for so long now, and to get off to the start he did, it's like, man, this season we've seen this, like some guys get into these windows of like, hey, this might be your career peak, right? And if you don't convert a Players, or in this case a major, it's like you may never get another one. Like Adam Scott kind of is like, this might be his last best chance to get a second major. On the flip side, you get like Victor Hovland, Sam Burns. These guys, especially Hovland, of course, like could be there more often. But with Spawn, it's like, you never know. And he could turn into like the 20th best golfer for the next, 5 years. He pops up, gets some stuff. But I mean, golf's just, I'm not saying it's necessarily better than all of the other sports, but it's just unlike every other sport where you're playing against yourself, you're playing against the course, the conditions, the field, just everything. And for Spawn to go out and also to nail that putt, not even just a putt, like, man, that's one of those stories almost like if this were the end of a sports movie you were watching, it'd be like, all right, this is a bit much.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's like you weren't expecting it. Like I was like, okay, make it close, bud. Sink the next one. We'll be good to go. And then you watch it go. You're like, oh, and it's like it kind of like catches you off guard. We're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that just happened. Like that kind of thing where it's like there wasn't the anticipation. It's like you get the climax of a movie before you're like, oh my gosh, like before you expect it, there's no build. It's just like happens. So it's kind of cool. So I appreciated that.
It's almost like when like the best writing is whenever you get the twist right as it's about to happen, because everything's led to that point,
right?
Where it's like, oh, it's expected. You can now put the pieces together. Like this is what's happening, and then it happens. Like that's peak writing. And with Spawn, just and frankly, I was off base. A lot of strokes gained putting kind of determined things last week. A lot of the best putters were the ones who kind of were at the top of the leaderboard. He was making so many putts, and for him to end it that way, it's like when it was like 10 feet out, I'm like, okay, all right, that's how we're doing it. So I mean, big shout out to JJ Spawn. It was honestly a great tournament. We didn't get Bryson and Scotty dueling it out or anything, but it's one that I don't think we'll forget anytime soon.
Yeah, we did not get a lot right last week because like the outrights talked about on the show were JT and Neiman, and they both missed the cut by a mile. I had personally bet Corey Connors, who withdrew before the fourth round. I had personally bet Bryson, who missed the cut as well. So 0 for 4 on those, but hey, the JJ Spawn one helped make up for it. So we can get a lot wrong and still be very happy in golf, which is a nice place to be. Hopefully we get less wrong today as we break down the Travelers Championship. We're going to break things down, let you know all the keys to TPC River Highlands. A lot of similarity as far as like what skills matter for this week compared to what we had last week. Very different course, obviously, and very different scoring conditions. What we had last week too, but some skill overlap there. We'll break down golfers who have done well here in the past, current form, best bets, and our top DFS picks as well. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. We're here each and every week breaking down that week's PGA Tour event, talking best bets and DFS picks. Next week, I will not be here. Brandon flying solo. I am on vacation, so he'll hold down the fort. Audio only for that one, so no show on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. We'll be back the week after on the video side of things, I believe, for the John Deere. So excited to get back to the John Deere. Lucky my trip didn't force me to miss out on that. But that'll be at the FanDuel Research Podcast feed, FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Subscribe on both and leave us a thumbs up on YouTube or a 4-star rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. FanDuel is the best place to find all your favorite player props. And now you can make the smarter play with new performance trends. Want to see if a guy's hitting that over consistently, or maybe they've been flirting with a potential triple-double? Get the latest stats right inside the app and see who is heating up. And once the game starts, that's when things get interesting. You can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. If you don't already have FanDuel, it's not too late to get in on the action. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only, $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit MDGamblingHelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or Call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text OPENY in New York. Let's break down now TPC River Highlands, the host of this year's Travelers Championship, as it has been for forever, it feels like. It is 6,844 yards and a par 70. There are 72 golfers in the field this week, and there is no cut. Again, no cut event for this week for the final signature event of the year. Brandon, a lot of data on TPC River Highlands. What should we know about this course for the Travelers Championship?
Yeah, a bit of a different setup for sure than what we had last week at Oakmont, despite staying in the Northeast. Nothing.
Why?
Well, we went from Pittsburgh to Connecticut.
Are you implying that I should get mad about the Midwest thing?
Yeah, I thought you were going to chime in.
Yeah, Pittsburgh being the Northeast is pretty egregious, but whatever. Go off, King. You know,
yeah. Okay.
Pittsburgh is like the most Midwest city that's ever existed, from what I've heard. I've never actually been there, so
yeah, you would probably know more than me.
Fair enough.
So it's very short, very, very short. 6844, as you mentioned. Shortest we get on tour effectively every year. But we got like wider than average fairways, but smaller than average greens to kind of cancel some things out. But winning scores in recent years have been 22 under, 23, 19, 13, and 19. And kind of like what types of things do we need to know about beyond that? Well, like I think the biggest thing is that not all distance on tour is created equally, but in this case, it's a lot of really short holes that kind of make up where we lose the distance from your average par 70. It's just kind of felt throughout. There's 3 short par 4s. 3 of them are under 400 yards, 2 are under 350. 2 par 3s also under 175 yards, and a shorter par 5, 13th, rating out about 525 on the scorecard. And really, just in terms of notably longer than average holes, it's just the 481 yard par 4 4th and the 223 yard par 3 5th. So you're getting kind of a lot of reprieve, and you end up seeing a lot of additional shot frequency from like that 125 to 175 yard range for approach distribution. For anybody who likes to dig in there, I will kind of throw that in to the model this week, because for the most part, you got small greens, sure, but the fairways are wide. Now you don't want to miss the fairways, penalizing. It's really felt there. So it's kind of like you don't have to pound driver necessarily. And it's not statistically the most overlap with something like Harbor Town, just due to a difference in the importance of like around the green play between the two courses. But effectively, you don't have to nuke it off the tee. That kind of opens things up a bit. And I don't remember who won at Harbor Town, maybe Justin Thomas. So I might be back there this week. But yeah, for the most part, the things I'm looking for, good ball strikers in the sense of hitting fairways and then hitting greens. So stroke gain approach and stroke gain off the tee with an emphasis on driving accuracy. I'm not just going pure accuracy, because there is, somewhat of a benefit to being longer off the tee. And frankly, longer hitters who can hit shorter clubs off the tee and try to hit fairways still going to benefit compared to the golfers trying to hit driver into these fairways, throughout. But for the most part, are you a ball striker? Are you a putter? And can you basically make birdies? That's, I think, the recipe this week. So it does open things up a lot to the entire field. And I know we have a big favorite. It's really hard to, we lengthened a little bit.
Did.
It's a little hard to knock Scotty Scheffler at 3-1. But I do think that this one's a little bit open. I know he's the defending champ. I get it, but took a playoff last year, and I don't think it's necessarily a lock. Whenever scores get under like 15 under sort of winning scores, that the best guys separate as much as they could at a course where, scores are a little closer to even par, which we still did see a lot of separation. It was just the 6 best guys weren't really in contention, which is also kind of understandable in a full field that 6 guys maybe didn't have their A game. So that's what I see when I look at TPC River Highlands. What jumps out to you?
Yeah, it's kind of what you said about where the list of golfers who can realistically win is bigger this week. So when you were out, there was a week where Scotty was like plus 280 or somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I bet him because I thought that was a solid value. No Rory in that field, though. And it was a course where I thought that the field of golfers who could realistically compete was smaller. So while I think that Scotty's very, very fair at 3-1, it's not a value to me. I think it's like appropriate. Like he's probably like, that's 25%. Like he's probably about 25% spot on. So I needed a little bit longer to go there because I do think there are more golfers who can compete, which will play a role in the golfers I like from a betting perspective, which we'll talk about later on for today as well. Before that, though, let's dig into the golfers who have done well at TPC River Highlands in the past. Brandon, when you dig into past data at this course, which golfers have popped most here based on what you've seen?
Yeah, so I pull up the last 5 years of data and look at total strokes gained. So it's going to account for success, but also longevity here. We have a couple golfers who have played, the last 2 years with good finishes. Can kind of talk about them, but I have a full post on this up on FanDuel.com/research with a full breakdown of everyone's form. But leading the way in this methodology is, I was going to say he's your boy, but I also kind of feel bad enough at this point where like maybe Patrick Cantlay is no longer actually your boy. So he just dead to us, I guess, at this rate.
Not dead to me. He actually I looked at him again this week and it felt bad, and I was like, I actually can't do that. So
yeah, but it's hard not to. He's kind of like just maybe he's a really strong golfer who's really best at certain setups. Like maybe that's just kind of who.
And those certain setups are never in majors.
Yeah. But he's got 7 straight top 15 finishes at TPC River Highlands, including 2 straight top 5 finishes. If in that span, if you like look back, 4 strokes gain categories off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. So you got 4 categories across those 7 years, 28 total categories. He's been positive in 26 of those 28. The only 2 that he lost were with putting, and that was back in 2018 and 2019. So it's really hard to kind of knock that. I don't have that information available to like your percentage of categories that you've gained, but like that's about as good as you can ask for to gain across the board at a course so consistently. Now he has missed 2 of his last 3 cuts, but as you kind of alluded to, those were majors, the US Open and the PGA Championship. His other finishes at T13 at the RBC Heritage. It's not surprising to see him play well at Harbour Town. T4 at the Truist Championship and T12 at the Memorial. So Cantlay, I think, is an interesting name. You're not really getting a lot of reprieve on the salary, though, this week. For him at a 11.4, I think this course history must be factored in pretty heavily here. Next up on the list, though, we jump the whole way down to a sub 9,000 salary for Brian Harman. Talking about driving accuracy, taking precedent. We see that with Harman all the time. Salary is 8,700 on FanDuel from a DFS standpoint, 90-1 outright to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. He's got 4 straight top 10s at TPC River Highlands, and 6 of them in his last 7 starts at the course. Won the Valero Texas Open recently, was T36 at the Masters, and then T3 at the RBC Heritage. Results kind of iffy since then, but you just think about course fit, what is being asked of golfers, and I think Harman has that for this week. You're grimacing. Do you have comments? Should I stop on Brian Harman?
No, I was looking at his recent strokes gain numbers, and they're a little red. I get it though, because it's he's not going to be a guy who can hang at every setup. So I don't want to overdo that, but it's even at 87, I'm still having a hard time personally.
Yeah, I mean, no cut event, smaller field, like
Part of it is the knowledge too that there are some guys in the low 8,000 range who I'm like get a firm thumbs up, and like Harman does not get the firm thumbs up, and I think that's playing into it too. Is that knowledge of the low 8,000 range?
yeah, that I can see that. But as what we've like mentioned thus far on the show, it kind of pops out a little bit at least.
Yeah.
But then we get back up to some bigger names. Xander Schauffele, salary's 11.8. To me, just really underrated again. T12 at the US Open, pretty quiet, just kind of grinding his way to positive approach, positive numbers across the board, just consistently for him. Long term, the problem is he tends not to put them all together in the same event right now, which is something that I will reference again for a different golfer, but he was positive in all four, just to clarify, at the US Open. 5 of 6 cuts at TPC River Highlands in his career, 4 straight top 20s, and he won in 2022. Honestly, I kind of went into this assuming that Xander was going to be my pick, but it's 16-1. That's just, I assumed he'd still be like 22 because people were just kind of sick of him again. But that's not the case. 16 and 22, very different numbers. So I can't quite get there. But he is someone that before seeing the number, I liked a lot. Then there's Scotty Scheffler. So it's always scary whenever Scotty's played a course well, because he still somewhat has like the narrative of playing just, he's got to play a course and then he'll go out and win it the next year. And then every year after that forever, basically. But T7 at the US Open, and boy, if you watched him just at all, it felt like, man, if he could putt, he'd have won by 6 shots. He actually gained strokes putting. He just didn't make a lot of like birdie putts on Sunday whenever he could have made a bit of a run. I don't think he would have really ran anyone down necessarily, but his putting is a lot better than you think. I just want to say that. Actually, let me pull this up because I'm talking about him.
So the past 6 months, he's at plus 0.53 strokes putting. Among golfers in the field, that ranks 7th.
He's a 90th percentile putter from within 15 feet on tour this year, and 17th percentile beyond that. Like
he leads the field in approach the past 6 months by almost 0.3 strokes per round, and he's top 7 in putting, and he's obviously very good off the tee too. Like, he's a freak. Like, there's a reason why I said 3-1 is fair. And he's making me think about him, and I'm annoyed that I'm like, man, 325, that area might be kind of good.
Well, and then like, it's not only just Scotty at a course that he just won last year, effectively, a couple extra putts away from really putting pressure on. And, if you make a couple extra putts early on, that could potentially change how you're holing things later. But along with that, next up on this list is actually Rory McIlroy, who's 12-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook. He's the second favorite. He drove it really well at the US Open last week, which was a big storyline, but didn't hit the irons great and kind of had the putter going. It was a pretty gritty T19 because he looked really out of it and he battled back. Credit to him. And now he's going to a course where he's been top 20 in 5 straight years. Did not play last year, but T7 in 2023. A lot of green in his strokes gain profile, not as much as Cantlay, but positive in 15 out of the 20 measurements there for Rory. So pretty consistent there, but it does feel like Rory's just lost a step compared to where Scotty is. Xander, again, my perception must be off now. People must like Xander again. Morikawa, Ludwig, and Cantlay. Anyone who's listened to us long enough knows that I don't feel this way, but like, those are 3 guys who are like, they can't win, right? Like, they're not going to win. Like, they don't go out there and like shut the door. Rory's kind of iffy, and maybe you're not fully there on Xander, and it's like, okay, well, now Scotty like 3-1, playing as well as he is, as you just mentioned about the putting, and he probably should be putting better if he gets some of those longer putts to fall. He was around this number for the US Open. Like that, we got some stuff to talk about.
There's a non-zero chance I talk myself into it before the end of the show.
That I think the biggest knock is that while you might have an issue with the 5 names behind him, it's a little more winnable, a little more gettable for some of these other guys. So that's probably the biggest knock. But let's rattle off the rest of the list of guys who played pretty well here. Keegan Bradley, Northeast narrative, won in 2023. Salary's $10,700. Played pretty well, here long term. Missed the cut in 2020 and 2021, but since then, T19 winner and T39. Victor Hovland, saw a lot of him on coverage, US Open. Solo third for him. Lost strokes on the greens at Oakmont, which is tough, but pretty well suited for TPC River Highlands from what it asked for you from being a precise ball striker. T11, T29, and T20 in his last 3 starts here. And then I mentioned some guys with like some, good form, but maybe not a full run of 5 years. Tom Kim, second last year in a playoff against Scotty Scheffler, 38th the year prior. Salary is only $7,900. You want some accuracy. That's a good start for Tom Kim. Sung J M, third last year, 29th prior, $9,000 is the salary. I kind of looked at him, but I just can't ever trust someone whose irons are so consistently negative. Tony Finau, salary is only $8,900, 5th, 4th, and 13th the last 3 years. Doesn't come to mind as someone who's going to benefit an accuracy course, but there's still a narrative for some of these longer hitters who can club down a little bit. Justin Thomas, $11,200, 5th and 9th the last 2 years. Not going to be the last time you hear JT's name this week. And then Shane Lowry, who also did not have a great time with Oakmont, got a couple hot mic moments, picked up his ball without marking it, which, it happens, I guess, just not usually to guys in majors, but top 20 the last 2 years, mid-level salary at $9,900. Anybody on this list jump out?
Yeah, I want to talk about Hovland real quick. He gained 1.76 strokes around the green. Like,
he did chip in for Eagle.
Yeah, that's the most of his entire career. I had not found another event where he's above 1. So the irons are awesome, and we know he can be a good driver. I wanted to buy in, especially because he's still we're not paying a massive tax. He's 30-1 this week. I have my antennas up for a couple guys where I'm monitoring them, right? Because I want to bet them at some point in the near future. Hovland is 1, Spieth is 1, Xander Schauffele is 1. I couldn't talk myself into any of them for this week specifically. So, but those are the guys I'm most actively monitoring is Schauffele, Hovland, Spieth. I'm seeing enough signs of improvement where they're guys I'm most focused on, but not betting them quite yet. So I think I want to at least flag that with Victor because it got my attention how much work he did around the green at Oakmont.
Yeah, he had some pretty clutch chips. I mentioned the chip in, but yeah, just lost some strokes on the greens. He's been hitting the irons really well, which is not surprising.
It's over a larger sample now too. It's not fluky. I don't think that part, at least.
Yeah, the irons are there, which you expect from him, but it's been a little up and down. The around the green stuff is historically quite red. It's not necessarily as bad now. But yeah, I think he's not the only name of is this a monitor or is this a get in on things that we might have? And there's a name we were kicking around on Slack that I might kind of get to before we actually give our actual picks.
Okay. I'm excited about that, and I hope it's who I think it is. So I'm looking forward to that.
I guarantee you it is who you think it is.
Oh, baby. That makes me happy. That warms my heart.
I might not get there, but I'm getting close.
I hope it's an outright because I don't want to ride the coaster for a top 20 personally.
Yeah, it would be. It's an all or nothing.
Good. I'm happy about that. That's a little tease for later on. Before that, though, let's dig into the golfers with the best form entering the Travelers Championship. Brandon, who is hitting it the best as we get set for TPC River Highlands?
So, signature event, last one of the year. Honestly, I don't know if we even said that, but you'd expect a lot of great form. And it's not that we don't have it, but
all the second tier guys are in weird form. I think that's the issue.
That's and like we mentioned, like
Yeah.
I ran down the list, like the Rory, Xander, Colin, Ludwig, Cantlay. It's like these guys aren't really who they can be at their peak, and Scotty kind of is at his peak. So we talk a lot about the True Strokes Gain query at Data Golf, which adjusts for field strength across all tours, which is sick to have. And over the last 3 months, typically in a field like this, you get a couple names, 3 to 5 over a 2.0 True Strokes Gain per round. There's one, of course, it's Scotty Scheffler, and he's a little bit above a 2. He's at a 3.51 in that span. Next up is Rory McIlroy at a 1.93. I always forget to do this. I start doing this like beforehand, but 3.51, it's 1.58.
Yeah.
So that's going to be over 4 rounds, just because I think this is worthwhile for the 6.3 shots. Or not, you don't always play, like you don't just play at your 3-month baseline for 4 rounds, and that's just how things are decided. But yeah, if everyone played to their 3-month baseline, he would beat not just like the field average, he would beat the second best guy by over 6 shots, which is just, it's a different conversation. I know the 3-to-1 number is like hard to wrap your head around in terms of getting there, but it is what it is. Justin Thomas is third on the list at a 1.81, and Corey Connors withdrew, so he's no longer on this list at a 1.77. Then you drop down to Victor Hovland at a 1.69. But what we're really looking for is who are the sort of underrated guys who are in good form right now. Let's take a look by looking at the names with FanDuel DFS salaries of 10,000 or lower. There's actually 15 guys above a 1 in between a 1.58. And like, yeah, that's, not that close to like the Rory and JT tier, but I mentioned Victor Hovland's at a 1.69. Like, it's not, it's just one of those weeks where it might be play Scotty in DFS, maybe play a secondary stud, and then you got a lot of names below 10K. Some of these are below 9K. I didn't count them up, but looks like 7 or so, which is kind of sick. But leading the way at a 1.58 is Ben Griffin. Salary's 9,700. I would say was in contention for sure. Didn't have the best overall Sunday, but he is playing some great golf. If you like the idea of looking at the quadrants or like the all 4 categories, boy, go to Data Golf and type in Ben Griffin and look at how amazing he's been across the board over his last 4. And that includes the PGA Championship where he was T8 and the US Open where he was T10. Salary's 9,700. I don't understand how I'm going to be able to line up without him in terms of like just where he should be compared to where he is now, like in terms of salary.
I like him in DFS. I love him somewhere else.
I like that. Mm-hmm. A name we've discussed a little bit, Jordan Spieth. Salary's 10,000. He is 50 to 1. He's at a 1.51 true strokes gain per round, so not that far off of Ben Griffin in this span. He is actually just below Sam Burns and just above Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele and Colin Morikawa. For some context, over the last 3 months, he's, he can get really hot with the irons still. The driving accuracy is not amazing. He's got a spotty history at TPC River Highlands, but did win in 2017 in his debut. From there, it's been not great, but that's kind of the Jordan Spieth situation. Harris English, salary's 9,000. He's at a 1.36. Daniel Berger, 1.34. He's got another mid-level salary at 9,600. Then you get Tom Hoge at 1.32. 7,900 is the salary. Bud Cauley, 82. 1.31. Like, that's a pretty value stack there if you just trust the 3-month data. Shane Lowry, 1.18. So that's kind of a drop off to someone who might be going through some stuff. It seems like not the best, still good form, but doesn't seem to be super in charge of his game right now, I guess. I don't know how to put it other than that. JT Poston 1.16. He's at 8,800. Siwoo Kim 9,300 to 1.15. I'm not even going to bother reading the strokes game because these are all just kind of flat from here. But Jason Day 88. Andrew Novak 82. Ryan Fox 83. Taylor Pendrith 92. Mav McNeely 94. Ryan Gerard 77 at a 1.0 flat. If this is not a week where you play Scotty, and I would probably say Ben Griffin just due to the fact that he should probably be like 10-7 instead of 9-7.
Yeah.
You can just plug and play some value names, get to, if you trust this data, sure. Maybe that's not how you want to do things, but you made the case basically that there's weird form behind Scotty at the top. There's like not a whole lot of differentiation in that other, like the tier below that, if you just make it real wide. So
yeah.
I think this one kind of writes itself, honestly. Do you have any different thoughts? Is there anyone here you really want to dig into more?
No, I would just say that I alluded to like the fact there are guys in the low AK range who I like. Several of them were on your list, Bud Colley being one of them. Shocker. Ryan Fox, 83. Like, he's not Ben Griffin in terms of like the elite form, but like in terms of like, oh, he's gotten white hot. Like that's Ryan Fox too. So I like both those guys quite a bit. We'll talk about them in the DFS section, because I think both those guys well worth our attention for this week. Weather for TPC River Highlands, it's not going to be as chaotic as what we had at Oakmont, but we'll see higher winds Thursday afternoon, topping out at 13 miles per hour. There's a chance of rain late as well. The wind gap will be less drastic on Friday, so I would give a slight edge to golfers with earlier tee times on Thursday. As always, though, a note with a smaller field, the difference in tee times between the first and last is not going to be as big. So just note that as well with these guys here, that while we give up leg up to guys on Thursday morning, teeing off later Friday, just keep that in mind. Wind, less of an issue over the weekend, so not going to worry about that too much there. Scoring may pick up there as a result too, but do want to note that earlier tee times Thursday will be a slight preference for me. Let's take a look now at the betting odds of FanDuel Sportsbook and try to identify the best bets for this week at TPC River Highlands. Brandon, when you look at the odds board of FanDuel Sportsbook, which outright stand out to you as things stand?
So is Scotty back to plus 280?
I did bet him while you were talking about current form. I'm not at FanDuel, so I'm not the reason this number moved. It had nothing to do with that, but right. I'm happy seeing this now that I did, because I bit. Not if I took 325. I'm happy to have gotten that number now with the fact that he shortened again.
Okay. Well, as a result, potentially of that, the guy who I had eyes on has lengthened from 25 to 30. And that is once again our guy, Justin Thomas. I don't even want to say that I can't quit Justin Thomas, because I have. He's kind of like Patrick Cantlay at this point. Shout out at Atlanta Drive, TGL. Can't wait for next year. But
it's the TGL hangover, man. I'm telling you, it's real.
He got his majors. Maybe, I hope it's not the last we've ever seen from Justin Thomas, but honestly, he's a really top tier golfer who's just not suited for every single course where he tees it up. And I think that's fine. He struggled at Augusta and bounced back and won at RBC Heritage at these courses that just kind of require precision. And it's not like he's a prohibitively short hitter or anything. He's just, compared to the superstars, he's a, noticeably shorter hitter than they are. But at courses where you need to like be a ball striker and just kind of hit the right spots, and hit greens and like make putts, that's kind of where I like Justin Thomas at this point in his career. I think that, again, it's not a perfect comp, but I think RBC Heritage, so Harbor Town and TPC River Highlands are close enough in terms of what I'm looking for, that I'm fine with that. And Thomas has 2 straight top 10s at TPC River Highlands the last 2 years. He's gained in all 3 tee to green areas in both years. And if you want to talk about like, okay, we're talking outrights, so what matters is upside, like your true ceiling. Can you go out and win? The leaders in ceiling, so your like standard deviation against your baseline over the last 50 rounds. This is from Data Golf's data, and then I kind of did some stuff with that. But Scotty Scheffler leads at a 5.6, so his like kind of realistic ceiling is gaining 5.6 shots against the field. Just simplify it. Rory's at a 5.2, and then Justin Thomas is at a 5.0, and nobody else is above a 4.5. The two names above him have 7 combined wins this year, and he's not that far off. He's probably due for better luck in terms of getting wins. And at 30-1 now, I liked him at 25. 30, absolutely. This is when I would feel comfortable playing Justin Thomas for an outright. So I'm there. And kind of like, we saw it from Vic. We saw it from Burns. These guys just behind him, or in Hovland's case, the same number. But for this particular setup, I like Justin Thomas.
Yeah. You mentioned you were going to pick JT on Slack, and I said he was dead to me because he missed the cut last week. Once he lengthens to 30, I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Like that's a number where it's like, you got to be able to overlook one bad event. And like, yeah, he was bad at all 3 majors. That's fine. It is what it is. This is not a major. This is a different setup from what we've had before. So I think that makes a lot of sense. You got JT 30-1. Any other outrights for you this week?
Kind of made this joke years ago of this guy being very similar to Justin Thomas, but it feels like it kind of came to fruition. But Russell Henley at 40-1. I just think they have pretty similar skill sets. They're guys where I prefer them at courses that don't demand distance. Henley's very accurate off the tee, phenomenal iron player. He's gained at least 1.42 strokes in each of his last 2 events. I was a T5 at Memorial and a T10 at the US Open. Very quiet T10 at the US Open, frankly. Didn't see a lot of him hitting putts. I know his major championship prior, missed cut at the Masters, missed cut at the PGA. Not really where you want it, but he's played TPC River Highlands 2, 4, 6, 7 times. He's got 4 top 25s, just 1 missed cut. Always gains, fairways, always gains with approach. And frankly, 40-1, we saw him win a signature event already, but I think Henley is exactly the type of name that comes to mind that if you got to get to kind of 20 under, it gets a couple more people in the mix. Henley just not going away feels like a pretty easy sell. So Henley at 40-1. And again, I kind of just did the same thing for Justin Thomas against Hovland and Sam Burns. Like I kind of think that's a little bit of just name value on JT by comparison. And like I love Robert McIntyre, but like Henley versus McIntyre 40-1, it's like that's where sometimes it's as simple as like, okay, if this is where this guy's being valued, maybe it's time. But my model likes it too. So I like Henley as well at 40-1.
I couldn't agree more. I think Russell Henley is an awesome bet this week at 40-1 for the same reasons as you. And he is one of my outrights as well for the same reasons listed. I had some concerns, like maybe he was falling off a bit over the late spring, and he had some events where things were kind of bad. You alluded to the miscut at Augusta, the miscut in the PGA Championship, but past 2 events, a really good iron play. Gained 1.4 plus strokes on approach per round in both those. Finished 5th and 10th in those 2 events. Tough fields. You got good history of the Travelers, which you alluded to. We need accuracy off the tee. We know he's got that. So Russell Henley is a guy who can beat a signature event field, and I wouldn't be shocked if he did it again at a setup that should suit his superpowers really well. So we're both on board Russell Henley 40-1 to win this week as being a good bet for the Travelers Championship. Now, you had alluded to another guy you were considering. Did you convince yourself to get on the coaster or not yet? No?
I don't think not yet, at least not this publicly. That's Jordan Spieth, though. Yeah. I think he's close. He's got a win here in 2017. Not the best form.
Can I ask you a question?
Good.
What talked you out of it? Because for me, I was going to, but then I looked at the course history, and I was like, okay, even when he was in better form back in the day, wasn't amazing at this setup. And like, he is pretty chaotic, which might not be necessarily what I'm looking for at this kind of course. That's why he's on my like radar, my like to watch list, but I couldn't get there for an outright. Is that the same thing for you, or what kind of led to talking yourself out of it?
It's pretty similar to that logic. It's also doing the same kind of thing of, so he's 50. I'm not going to ruin things too much, but there is another name at 50 who's a lot easier to sell yourself on, if we're being honest. But I will be, once we're done, just kind of taking a peek potentially at the odds for Royal Portrush when it comes to Jordan Spieth. So,
okay.
I think we're close
I do too.
to seeing Spieth.
I do too, and I'd like to see it. So yeah. I think we're close. I think that we're getting the building blocks there. So heavily on my radar. Maybe a guy we're talking about, hopefully in the very near future. Not quite there for either of us for this week, though. Instead, I want to focus on another guy who is 50-1, and that is Ben Griffin, who is playing like just amazing golf right now. I look at strokes gained at stabilization, which is a number that looks at the past 30 rounds off the tee, past 40 rounds approach, and past 50 rounds short game, to kind of get a look at what you're doing in numbers that stabilize a bit more quickly. And you look at that metric, Ben Griffin's a stud. He has gained at least 0.61 in approach per round in 4 straight events. He's gained at least 0.32 off the tee in each of those as well. And the short game has been good over a longer sample. So when you combine the good ball striking he's had recently with the longer sample of the short game, he ranks 4th in strokes gained to stabilization behind Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay. All those guys are much shorter than Ben Griffin at 50-1 for this week. He's not hyper accurate off the tee. It's not like a guy like Henley who gets bumped up for that, but he's also not like a sprayer off the tee. Is above average in terms of accuracy. So maybe it's ambitious to expect him to keep this up because he has gotten a couple trophies recently, but the sample on Griffin being good keeps expanding and he keeps on playing just phenomenal golf. So if you want to go top 10 at plus 360, fine. I get that for sure. I think that's a totally defensible way to bet Ben Griffin. I get it, but give me the outright, man. I think that Ben Griffin's got that juice. So I want to go Ben Griffin 50-1 to win the Travelers Championship this week. Any thoughts for you on Ben Griffin 50-1, Brandon?
I mean, were you saying that because you wanted to move on to the next section?
I actually did not look ahead because I am not that prepared, if I'm being fully honest. So my outrights are Ben Griffin 51. We're both on board. Russell Henley at 40-1, and you got JT 30-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook as our outrights for this week. Now, let's talk Ben Griffin on your odds to transition to the non-outright section. I did eventually take a look. What are your thoughts on him? Which market do you want Griffin in this week?
Top 10 plus 360. You just made the case for Ben Griffin. If I needed to make a case beyond that, it's potentially capitalizing on a guy who is gaining not just, his irons are great, and if the rest of the game's there, then like it's literally everything's clicking across the board. And if you go over the last 20 rounds for everyone's last 20 rounds, Scotty's at a 4.09. But Ben Griffin's at a 2.61 and is just green across the board. I think the only thing that can really stop him is that he's been playing kind of a lot of golf.
Yeah.
But he's like got a chance to make the Ryder Cup team. I think that he's going to be able to stay dialed in for one of the best stories in golf, frankly. So Ben Griffin plus 360 top 10. I don't dislike an outright at 50-1. But I just feel a little more comfortable with the plus 360 top 10.
I do think the fatigue angle is a fair thing to mention. He has not had a week off since before the CJ Cup. He missed the cut at CJ Cup, so he got a couple days off at least at that point. But he's been very active. No, I guess he had the week off before.
He didn't play RBC Canadian Open.
Yeah, the USO with the week off before that. So that helps. We're not going to get Michael Kim done this, which is good. Where Michael Kim was like, I got to make the Masters, man. I'm playing every event. So it's not quite that bad, but yeah, I think it's a fair shout out for sure on Ben Griffin. So you like him top 10 plus 360 and overall both on board with Ben Griffin this week. Which other non-outrights are you on?
So you don't have to scroll far. I think this is such an interesting page, though, that Jim has. It's Ben Griffin, Shane Lowry, who should play well here if he kind of has his game. JJ Spawn, of course, just won the U.S. Open. Like, just have the question of, like, a hangover. Daniel Berger plus 360, which is where I'm going to go.
It's like this
here.
whole range, the 3-1 range for a top 10 is all because I think you could defend Keegan at 3-1.
Yes.
Russell Henley's plus 320. Like there are a lot of guys here who are, I think, very much viable for a top 10 this week.
You want accuracy, Aaron Rye. You like Jordan Spieth's putting it together. Cam Young kind of showing some life. I alluded to this and I didn't quite get there, but we've been making the case for like Xander for being positive, kind of popping around his like strokes gain categories. If you look at Hideki, it's a lot of the same thing where like, no, he's kind of toast.
Sure.
Not really the case. He's like having good weeks. It's just not all together. And I wouldn't be surprised if Hideki, maybe not even this week, but soon is like in contention because everything kind of lines up for once. So, but yes, this is like such an interesting range. But I'm going to go with Daniel Berger to finish top 10 as my other non-outright. He was really consistent for a long time in 2025. That kind of stopped a little bit, missed the cut at this Charles Schwab Challenge, missed the cut at Memorial, T46 at the US Open, which is not exactly going to cash a top 10 or anything. But the irons were really good for Berger at the US Open. Driver was good too. And not the most lengthy history for Berger at TPC River Highlands, but he does own 2 top 5 finishes here in 2016 and 2017. He's played 2 more since then, which were whatever. But I think that honestly, he's felt like such a floor player for a while, but now the ceiling's not nearly as bad. He's 14th in ceiling rating. According to my numbers, 9th in ceiling in terms of tee to green output. So he kind of elevates a little bit more than these names in terms of a ceiling that's probably a little harder to realize than it's actually been. So for me, Berger's the next name I'd go to, but it's really hard to cut through these names and kind of, if I had to pick people to like fade, I'd be like, man, this is tough.
Yeah.
Because there's a case to be made for a lot of these guys.
I want to get back to Berger because I also like him top 10 at plus 360, one of mine as well. Where is Spieth in the upside equation?
For total strokes gained, Spieth over the last 50 rounds is 20th.
Interesting. That's lower than I would have thought, given he's spiky in good areas, which is good. But
this accounts for everything.
Yeah.
He's 14th in approach ceiling. He's 17th off the tee, 22nd around the green, 43rd in putting ceiling.
I would have expected him to be better in terms of the ceiling with the irons because like he's had some like sick events in terms of iron play, but we'll file that away for later. We'll be back.
A lot of other guys though.
We'll be on him at some point too.
Yeah.
So Berger top 10 plus 360. It's all the stuff you alluded to. The reason he had those missed cuts was the putter was bad. Putter was better at Oakmont, which is weird. But it was the wedges that kind of failed him there. Seeing the irons be good again, like you alluded to, the driver be good. That kind of alleviates, similar to what the discussion we had with Henley, where it's like, is he kind of falling off? Did he like wear himself out by playing a lot of good golf for a long time? Is he grinding too hard? I have no concerns about that anymore with Berger. Just, bad week at the wedges. Accurate off the tee. Mentioned the course history that he has. He hasn't played here since 2019, but like back when he was young, he was good here. So I like Berger top 10 plus 360 as well. So that's for you as an addition to the Ben Griffin top 10 at plus 360. Other non-outright for me is a guy you've talked a lot about in the DFS section the past couple of weeks, but I like him for a top 20. Harris English is playing some pretty good golf, man. And right now, English is plus 180 for a top 20. Kind of don't hate that. I don't really want to go like super, super high end for English, but like, frankly, like he's shown some upside. Finished second at the PGA Championship. The putter helped him a lot at the Memorial, which means that he's got multiple ways to gain strokes because his quality finish at the PGA Championship was because of the irons. Doesn't lose around the green or off the tee. He's an accurate golfer. He won here back in 2021, so honestly not that long ago for Harris English. Other recent finishes, forgivable for him at TPC River Highlands because the form that was not as good as it is right now. So Harris English top 20 plus 180. I don't mind it. Any thoughts for you on HE this week, Brandon?
I'll say this. I see the case for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite there,
mm-hmm.
but I do think that he is a much better golfer than people probably realize at the moment. And I see the case for having a bit more of a pop week for being so good just across the board.
Yeah.
Just kind of such a good baseline guy to start with.
Yeah.
And that stuff matters.
Yeah, definitely does. So I've got a Harris English top 20 plus 180, along with Daniel Berger top 10 at plus 360. Let's take a look now at the DFS salaries on FanDuel for this week. Of course, Scotty Scheffler will lead the way. Checks in at 13.6. That is too low. I want Scotty in maybe every lineup again this week. I think that's where we start things here. You put Scotty in, you have got 92.80 left per golfer. Totally fine with that. So to me, Brandon, it's really just, it starts and stops with Scotty. What's your read on the top end of things here on FanDuel?
Yeah, it's too low of a salary, especially with the amount of value plays who are defensible and who don't necessarily like separate from the rest. Like there's not a ton of separation between the upper 8K range and the upper 9K range. Probably barring Ben Griffin, whose salary is, again, potentially like 1,000 too low. If you give me like Scotty at 12.6 and Ben Griffin at 10.7, I think that'd be still a really interesting combo if you need to justify not allocating 13.6 to Scotty. But I just want to reiterate, the putter is very likely better than you realize for Scotty Scheffler.
It is. I have zero concerns around him, frankly, and that doesn't happen ever. Yeah. So all in. I think 13.6 makes a lot of sense. And because I'm going so heavy at Scotty, not really liking Rory this week at 12K, not really on Xander at 11.8, Morikawa 11.6, Ludwig, Cantlay, JT. JT's fine at 11.2. I think that sour's low enough to make it make sense. It picks back up for me like in the 10K range. Like I like Henley at 10.6. I think he's a pretty fun pairing with Scotty. I don't mind Keegan at 10.7. Tommy at 10.8 works.
This feels like a Tommy course.
Yeah. And it's like, well, if I have Scotty in there, I don't need him to win because it's like, I've got the anchor in Scotty, kind of assuming that he wins at that point. So I think for me, it's this range of like Sepp Straka at 10.9 down to Russell Henley at 10.6. I like those guys quite a bit. Where do you see yourself going for your second golfer if we assume Scotty is locked in?
So two guys who missed the cut at the US Open kind of jump out with Sepp Straka at 10.9 and Tommy Fleetwood at 10.8. Again, feels like a Tommy setup, feels like a Sepp setup where you kind of hit fairways and make things happen. The biggest knock for me just mentally with Fleetwood isn't really the win probability. Like he's 12th in ceiling rank over the last 50, but Sepp by comparison's 5th.
Yeah.
It's just needing to go like 22 under probably to win. Doesn't really scream Tommy Fleetwood. Sepp Straka more so.
Sure.
Where he could just heat up with everything. Pretty sure I'm gonna get this correct because I was there, of course. I mean, he had a great ball striking week at the US Open. Sepp Straka, that is, hit a lot of fairways, just did not have the short game, especially the putter, which is exactly how you want to miss a cut if you're going to miss a cut. He's now missed all 3 cuts at the majors so far this year. So to answer your question, going to lean Russell Henley over Sepp Straka, but I think Sepp Straka is probably going to be overlooked and would not be surprised if he's very much in contention on the weekend.
I agree that Henley's the top one there. So I'm on board with that too. I think I'm maybe a bit higher on Keegan than you are at 10.7. Although like
I'm not low on Keegan. I just between Sepp and Keegan, I'd go Sepp, but
you're probably right.
I'm fine with Keegan.
Thinking more about it, I agree with you. So yeah, let me flip that. I'll go with Sepp over Keegan as well for my rankings there. Scrolling down further, because there's a shot we're in the low 10K range. Any interest for you in these guys, or we should skip on down to the 9K range?
Despite the big shot Bob moniker and everything, like McIntyre's an accurate driver, not super long. I think this is another good setup for him. So I wouldn't be surprised there. We at least have to do the due diligence of like mentioning that JJ Spawn just won the US Open and is like at a mid-level salary, and we're kind of like, yeah, whatever. I think that I'd be surprised if he felt the need to grind this one out, but at the same time, I think JJ Spawn would love nothing more than to like go out and win again.
So like I look a lot. I put a lot.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. I put a lot of weight in the strokes gained to stabilization number that I cite. And he's a 1.64, which is good. Spieth, though, is a 1.68. So I think that's part of why I'm not like Spawn last week is 86, and we both loved him for DFS. 10-1 is a little bit different. So it's about the salary for me. I'd rather go Spieth personally.
Yeah.
And I'd rather go with Ben Griffin in 97 too.
I agree.
Okay.
I have nothing
against my heart, JJ Spawn.
Yes. Nothing against Shane Lowry really process wise, just it's kind of like a Rory Light situation, which isn't just because they're buddies or anything, but like you kind of have Ben Griffin and like Aaron Rye and Daniel Berger who aren't potentially going like it just doesn't seem.
We don't look as similar in this headshot, which is upsetting because Shane Lowry and I are identical twins. Yeah, this headshot isn't quite because it's about the eyes, and the eyes don't look like me in this one. So I'm gonna have to request FanDuel change the headshot for Shane Lowry to be a bit more doppelganger-esque.
Could we just swap you in and see if anyone notices?
I mean, I'm probably not gonna like yell at volunteers, so I don't know. They might notice.
So again, I'm not playing Lowry, but I see the case for it. Ben Griffin is the clear standout. Then Daniel Berger. Aaron Rye, though, I think fits super accurate. No surprise if he's sort of solid. Again, kind of just putting a pin in Hideki's name at 95 of like, oh yeah, Hideki Matsuyama was like kind of forgotten about. At least want to shout that one out. Then things honestly are okay.
It's a pretty big fall after Hideki, I think.
I think so. Siwoo Kim would be the first name below that I would want to play at an accuracy setup. I get the case for Sungjae Im, but personally, I'm not there because the irons are so iffy.
I think he's actually the worst iron player in the field the past 6 months.
He probably is.
Negative 0.75. Second worst this also makes me sad. Max Homa is negative 0.63.
Those are two easy to love golfers. So hopefully that turns around.
I agree.
So you mentioned Harris English, but a name I think is interesting is just below that with Akshay.
Yeah.
This week. You mentioned like being surprised at Spieth not having the biggest like ceiling with irons. Akshay's fourth. If you go and look at his profile, he's like gotten multiple events where he's like over a 1.8, like over a 2. He's an accurate driver. It really feels like eventually he's going to put 4 rounds together. It almost seems like, and don't quote me on this because it's like might not be what's happening, but it seems like he has got like 2 to 3 really good rounds, but one round that just doesn't do enough for him.
Yeah.
But I think Akshay is interesting this week at 89, but are we kind of done with the below Hideki, above 9K range? Nobody jumps out to you?
Yeah, not really in that range. To me, like the hot spots are like Spieth at 10K. I could see myself using him in DFS this week because I can't quite get there for betting. Maybe I just use DFS as a way to get exposure. Really like Ben Griffin. Really like Daniel Berger. You could talk me into Hideki, but then it's like I'm probably not going to use anybody with a salary between 94 and 91. I'll use Harris English at 9,000. And so it picks back up there. So to me, of the ranges this week, I think the 2 weakest ranges are the 11K range and the low 9,000 range. And I'm frankly just probably going to avoid both those with most of my, outside of JT. I'm probably going to avoid those ranges with most of my lineups.
I agree. So who in the 8K range gets you going?
English at 9,000 if we're going to loop up there really quick. I do like him. Again, multiple ways to succeed. I find that pretty attractive. But honestly, even the upper 8K range is not my favorite either. So it's like, that's also not appealing. I could see myself using multiple golfers in the low 8K range in order to just kind of pepper. Like maybe I can get Spieth and Henley in with Scotty Scheffler, something like that. And the reason I have that is because I like Ryan Fox at 83, Bud Cauley 82, and Nick Taylor at 8,000. Fox, couple recent wins, finished 19th at the US Open as well. Didn't really get to prepare for Oakmont because he wasn't in the field until like the last second. Won his way in, which is pretty BA. He's got 5 straight events. of 1.69 true strokes gained or better, which is sick. He's not the most accurate guy at the tee, so like that's not an amazing course fit. But irons are sick. Short game isn't bad. So like Fox a lot 83. Bud Cauley 82, been on him quite a bit recently. Not going to go off just because he missed the cut last week. He was bad across the board last week too, which doesn't help. But the short game, bad the week before too. But he can spike with the irons. He can spike with the putter. Decently accurate off the tee. So I do like Cauley at 82. And then, as mentioned, Nick Taylor 8,000. He is someone who accurate off the tee, got good irons, short game above average in both categories. So in terms of like a steady Eddie in the low 8,000 range, Nick Taylor does check a lot of boxes for me. So Ryan Fox 83, Bud Cauley 82, Nick Taylor 8,000. That's going to give me a lot of flexibility to get to Scotty and still get to JT, Henley, Spieth, guys like that. Get to Ben Griffin at 97. That's I want to weaponize this tier, I think, personally this week.
Yeah, I wasn't quite there with Fox, but I understand it. But Cauley and Taylor are on my list. And then kind of eternal shout out at a course where you don't have to hit driver and it's helpful to have good irons. Tom Hoagie's salary is 7,900. Missed the cut at the US Open and the PGA, also the Charles Schwab, but 7th at Memorial, 18th at Heritage, 14th at Masters, 5th at Valero, 3rd at the Players. Like, there's no cut. If you're basically asking the question of can you hit fairways, can you hit greens, can you make some putts, like that's a week where you can consider Tom Hoagie. So don't look at the 3 of the last 4 missed cuts as like, oh man, he's in bad form. Didn't putt well in really any of those, but hit the
wasn't
irons.
Like crazy far off in any of those either.
Yeah, so I think Tom Hoagie at 79. I would probably prefer to Fox, but no strong preference. I think just sort of mixing in these names makes it really easy to get to Scotty plus another stud.
Yep, it does. If you put in, let's say hypothetically, just to build this out, I'm going to go, since we both agree on Taylor, well, I'll put Bud Cauley and Nick Taylor in there, and then put in Scotty. You're at 10,067 left for 3 golfers. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like we both like that upper 10K range. If you want to go Sepp and Henley, $8,700 left for 1 golfer. Like, yeah, you got 3 guys at 87 or lower, but like, that's fine. I can live with that this week. So
it's a no cut event and you got roughly 25% of the win equity
in one golfer,
in one guy,
plus 10% win equity in Russell Henley, obviously,
yeah, sure. But I think that's an interesting way to go.
Yeah.
And even if you don't want to go with that, you could kind of get to the
Ben Griffins easily, Daniel Berger's easily, Spieth easily, stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay. Any final DFS? Actually, who are your DFS loves this week?
Scotty, Russell Henley, Ben Griffin. I might honestly consider Akshay.
Okay.
As well. I got a feeling about Akshay and all the numbers seem to line up. But more realistically, I'm probably going to play more Bud Cauley / Nick Taylor just due to the salaries. But the real loves are Scotty, Henley, and Griffin.
Those would be the only 3 I'd list as like firm loves for me too. I fully agree with that. Like those guys will be in my head-to-head against you. Like it's easy as that. So we'll have at best a 3v3, and I wouldn't be shocked if we dupe each other this week, to be fully honest.
Yeah. Which would be good for me. So.
Yeah, it would be good because I got to make up ground. Luckily, I'm not making up ground because of what happened last week, because I did win last week thanks to JJ Spawn and Sam Burns. So that means I get to go. Lineup. I get to decide. And it wasn't as good as I was hoping it'd be. Shout out Bryson. I
think I have this figured out. I think I already have it figured out. But
okay.
Let me know. You're gonna go first.
I'm gonna pick Henley.
Yes, you're gonna pick Henley. I'm gonna pick Justin Thomas at 30, and I'm gonna go Xander at 16. This is a way to kind of have something on Xander. It's and then I assume. Well, I don't want to steer you.
I'm taking Ben Griffin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Already.
So you were correct.
Yes.
So I'll just let you do the full segment next time because I was actually spot on. Is like when we overlap on a pick, it's like, okay, I know I want that one pick.
Yes.
And like we both like Henley for a reason. So I think that makes sense. So I have Russell Henley at 40. You have JT at 30 and Xander Schauffele at 16.
Yes.
And then I've got Ben Griffin at 50-1 as our win picks for this week. Time dwindling for me to make up ground the bobble hat, which is concerning because I basically need to win out at this point, right?
Not exactly, but
because I'm not playing next week, so that's one less week.
Oh, okay. I think if we coin flip everything, I think my win probability is 98%. So it's an epic collapse.
Hey, so that means that my win probability is higher than JJ Spahns was last week. I'll take it.
I think you need to go 8-1 to tie.
I'm feeling great about it.
No, 8-1 I think would get you the win.
Okay. Well, if after you dupe me this week, we'll see. Any final thoughts for you on the Travelers Championship before we close up shop for this week?
Kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth on this one, but Scotty is in phenomenal form. He's statistically going to make more putts, so it's not unrealistic to like him at plus 280 or plus 300, wherever he kind of is. It's been waffling there. But at the same time, I do think that there's a case to be made for a couple extra names to be in the mix due to the fact that it's a lower winning score. So I still don't know if it's a true long shot in a signature event. But I think that you're not necessarily boxed in either DFS or betting, which is always fun. It's always fun to kind of have different ways to play things.
Yeah. And that like third tier of golfers, the guys in the 40-1, 30-1 range, they're pretty good for this week because that second tier is lacking. So we both respect Scotty. I bet him like mid-show, like we like where he's at, but like there is some value potentially in those guys as well. That is all that we have here for today. Reminder, next week, no YouTube show, just an audio only show. Brandon going to fly solo for that one, back with you on the YouTube side of things the week after. So subscribe to the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page on YouTube. Leave us a thumbs up there and turn on notifications. And also check out the FanDuel Research Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Brandon, if people have questions for you on social media, where can they find you there?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
And I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets and your DFS picks for the Travelers. Brandon, we'll talk to you once again next week. I'll be back for the John Deere in 2 weeks. This has been The Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.